sick last week, so I couldn't make a video. It wasn't corona or anything, it was just like a stomach flu or something like that. And I'm doing great now. So yeah, anyways, today, this evening, I prepared a video about the USSR. I don't really know how many facts, but I just have like a collection of facts that I wrote down in my little notebook. So, yeah, I'm just gonna start with the facts, I guess. If you like these kind of videos, please don't forget to subscribe. Oh, by the way, we are at 300 subscribers right now, 310, I believe, which is awesome. I'm really happy, and I'm hoping someday to reach that 1000 mark. Anyways, without further ado, let's start things off with fact number 1. Before the USSR came into existence, there was the Russian Empire under Tsar Nicholas II. Due to the heavy body count in World War I, there were uprisings. This led to the February Revolution, where the Tsar was overthrown and a new government was established. Moving on to fact number 2. This new government was run by two political parties, the Petrograd Soviets and the Provisional Government. The Provisional Government held state power. They organized elections. In fact, the goal of the Provisional Government was to organize the elections. Moving on to fact number 3. The Provisional Government lasted only 8 months until the Bolsheviks caused the October Revolution. The main error of the Provisional Government was that it decided to remain in the war. And also, they failed to give land to the peasants. Now, fact number 4. There was a smart man, Vladimir Lenin, who quickly realized this mistake by the Provisional Government. And so he and the Bolsheviks, who were part of the Marxist Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, now there's a mouthful, eventually became the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Fact number 5. Lenin had a simple slogan for his political party. This slogan was peace, bread, and land. Peace signifying the end of the war, which many Russian people really wanted. Land meant land for the peasants, obviously, and bread was to solve food shortages. Moving on to fact number 6. On November 6th and 7th in 1917, or October 24 and 25 on the Julian calendar, the Bolsheviks launched a coup d'etat. This was led by Lenin, and it was against the Provisional Government. Obviously, the Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, put themselves in charge after this coup. Moving on to fact number 7. After the revolution, the Bolshevik government exited the war against Germany and they signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which was a treaty of peace with Germany, ending the Russian participation in World War I. Fact number 8. In 1918, a civil war would erupt between the White Army and the Bolsheviks themselves, called the Red Army, which you probably know already. Following now are facts about the Russian Civil War. Fact number 9. The Russian Civil War was between the Reds and the Whites. The Reds were communist, socialists, and anarchists. The Whites were nationalists, Tsarists, liberals, conservatives, and they were backed up by the Allied powers, Great Britain, France, and nations like that. There was a big difference between the Whites and the Reds, other than obviously their political beliefs. But it was also the fact that the Whites did not have a real common cause. Instead of just trying to prevent a communist state. However, the Reds, they had a common cause. They wanted a socialist, communist Russia. So yeah, I guess you could say like the Reds were more motivated or something like that. I don't know. Fact number 10. Alexander Kolchak was a White Army general who was particularly cruel. He executed over 10,000 people, and however, he did manage to capture the city where the Bolsheviks held the emperor. However, it was too late because the Reds already executed Tsar Nicholas II. Yeah, I just put this fact in because a lot of times people only think like the Reds were very violent, which they were, but there were, among the Whites, there were also like certain generals who would perform like mass executions and stuff like that. So I guess they both didn't really were a picnic, or how do you say it? But yeah, moving on to fact number 11. The Reds had far better lands than the Whites. It was more compact. It was actually like, picture that this is Russia, this was the Red territory, and like Siberia and stuff like that, that was all White territory. But yeah, what the Reds had might be less big, but it was more compact, and there was more reliable industry and infrastructure, and it actually had a larger population than the vast amount of territory that the Whites had under their control. Moving on to fact number 12. To maintain order in the Red territory, the Reds started doing a thing called the Red Terror. And yeah, this basically meant that political opposition were sent to work camps, and prisoners would be shot, and generals' families were often held hostage to secure loyalty. Now it's called the Red Terror for a reason, I guess. Moving on to fact number 13. Eventually, it became clear to the Allies that the Bolsheviks were going to win. So the Allies withdrew from the conflict, and the Russian Civil War ended in 1922. Fact number 14. The collapse of the German and Austro-Hungarian Empire made the Bolsheviks believe in spreading their communist regime further across Europe. However, they did not succeed. But more on that later. Fact number 15. Lenin introduced the new economic policy in Russia. This allowed some farmers to keep their surplus. So their surplus. I don't know the other word. I'm not a native English speaker. I'm sorry. Some of them became very wealthy. This was to help revitalize the Russian economy that Lenin came up with that plan. Fact number 16. In 1922, Russia and surrounding states, surrounding puppet states you can call them, agreed to form the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. USSR was born. Fact number 17. Struggling with his health in the 1920s, Lenin eventually died in 1924. This led to a power struggle between two men, and two famous men. One was Trotsky and the second one was Stalin. Fact number 18. Trotsky believed in a concept called permanent revolution. He believed a communist Germany was necessary for the USSR's survival. He believed that other countries and states should have a communist revolution, and he focused on what was necessary outside of the USSR. And the term permanent revolution is because he thought that there would have to be a permanent revolution in other states for the USSR to maintain their communist regime. Moving on to fact number 19. Stalin, however, believed in a concept called socialism in one country. He believed that it was far too soon for communism to spread through Europe, and he wanted to improve communism inside the USSR because he believed it wasn't strong enough yet. So he focused more on what was necessary on the inside of the USSR. And these two approaches were like, it defined like the difference between the two men, I guess. Fact number 20. In 1929, Trotsky was exiled from the USSR, and Stalin obviously was victorious in a struggle for power in the USSR. Fact number 21. Stalin began to tighten his grip in the Soviet Union. He did this by using assassination, censorship, and the use of a secret police force called the KGB. He removed a lot of officers in the communist regime, and he also purged the officers in the Red Army. So earlier, when I said Stalin wanted to strengthen a socialist state, he meant like terrifying the crap out of everybody, I guess, to tighten his own grip. Fact number 22. Stalin's most famous tool of tightening his grip was the Gulag. This was a successor of Lenin's work camps with severe, dire situations. The mortality rates were incredibly high. Fact 23. Stalin introduced collectivism. This was an economic principle where the state would take 90% of all produced farming goods. It is worth noting, however, that Stalin's reforms changed the Russian Empire from a nation that was struggling to keep up to an economic powerhouse, but at great cost of the Russian civilians, obviously. Fact number 24. By the beginning of the 1930s, Stalin was in full control of the Soviet Union. The 30s were characterized by the Red Terror, which I already mentioned. This was also nicknamed Stalinщина, which caused millions of deaths. Fact number 25. Throughout the 1930s, Stalin's regime achieved a remarkable 13% rate of annual industrial growth. However, the Soviet people had to pay a dear price for it. The Red Army confiscated grain forcefully from the peasants, and this caused a famine in Ukraine. Ironically, in the Ukraine, it was a place where the most grain was produced in the entire Soviet Union. So yeah, That's collectivism for you, I guess. Fact number 26. In 1934, Stalin declared socialist realism the only acceptable approach to literature. This was the Communist Party's way of trying to control the minds of the population within the framework of the party's ideology. Yeah. Fact number 25. The purges of the 1930s started with the assassination of Kirov. He was the leader of the Communist Party in Leningrad. Stalin started to arrest innocent people and make them confess for crimes they did not even commit through various torture methods. Fact number 28. An estimate of 20 million people died due to the Red Terror in the 1930s. 20 million people. That's a lot of people. Moving on to facts about the Soviet Union during World War II. Fact number 28. World War II is known as the Great Patriotic War in Russia. Although there was a pact between the Soviets and Nazi Germany in 1939, the Nazis still invaded the Soviets in 1941. The Red Army stopped the offensive at the Battle of Stalingrad and drove through Eastern Europe. Although ravaged by war, the USSR came out of the war as an acknowledged great power. Fact number 29. For the USSR, World War II was a war of attrition, with which the Nazis eventually lost. The Soviets lost over 10 million civilians and 10 million soldiers. Most civilians died because of hunger, forced labor, or German reprisals. Fact number 30. Stalin was inept as a wartime leader at first. Eventually, Stalin was able to rely on patriotic support, and eventually the Soviets marched victorious through Berlin in April 1945. Fact number 31. The most important Russian military leader was Marshal Georgy Zhukov. He was instrumental at 4 key points in the war: the siege of Leningrad, the defense of Moscow, the Battle of Stalingrad, and the Battle of Kursk. And also, in April 1945, it was Zhukov who led the USSR's final assault on Berlin. So, a very successful general indeed. Fact number 32. Russian casualties were 60 times the number of American casualties. By contrast, 300,000 US soldiers died in the entire world and around 400,000 UK soldiers died. The Russians lost at least 26 million. That's a shocking fact for sure. But yeah, moving on to fact number 33. More Russians died at the Battle of Stalingrad than Americans and Brits in the whole war. It took decades for the Soviet population to come back to pre-World War II levels. Fact number 34. 75% of Nazi casualties were caused by the USSR. So many Germans were killed that Hitler eventually had to send workforces to the Eastern Front. This caused him to force French and Russian prisoners to work in German factories. Fact number 35. Even though Stalin purged the army and sent millions to the gulags, he was able to call on soldiers to make incredible sacrifices in the name of Russian nationalism. Soldiers rode on the tanks for the fatherland and Stalin, which is incredibly weird if you ask me, but yeah, this goes to show the power of propaganda, because Stalin purged the entire army Soviets in the 1930s with the Red Terror and stuff, and now he can actually count on his entire population, and they supported Stalin and the communist regime. But yeah, that's Russian willpower, I guess. Fact number 36. Richard Sorge, a German who became a communist and moved to Russia after World War I. He was the one who established spy networks in Germany and Japan, posing as a Nazi party member and a journalist in Tokyo. He was able to inform Stalin of the date that Germany was going to invade. However, Stalin chose to ignore him, which is a big mistake if you ask me. Moving on to fact number 37. By early 1943, 5 million slave laborers, many of them captured Russian, Belarusian, Ukrainian soldiers and civilians were working inside Germany. Fact number 38. After the loss at Stalingrad, Hitler ordered his manpowers to kidnap 10,000 Russian civilians a week to keep the factories running. Few of them lived longer than 18 months. Fact number 39. The war with Germany brought about a temporary alliance with the two greatest powers in the imperialistic camp, namely the USA and the UK. Despite deep-seated mistrust between the USSR and the West, an alliance was critical in the Second World War. Fact number 40. When the tides of war shifted in the Allies' favor, however, relations between the USSR and the West began to sour. Stalin became irritated by the postponing of the Normandy invasion by the US and the UK and Canada and French resistance forces. These were all the facts for today's video. However, I am going to make another video about the USSR, a part 2, where it's just the USSR after the Second World War. And some facts about that, I guess, because I started reading articles about the USSR about this for this video, and I thought it was hella interesting. And I thought, like, yeah, I can do another video about the USSR in a later stage of the 20th century, because, let's be honest, the 20th century is super interesting. At least that's my opinion. But yeah, glad you watched the video. Leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you didn't like the video. And I guess I'll catch you in the next video. Alright, take care.